The moment the spotlight flickered on, nobody in that massive auditorium expected history to shift, not for two trembling voices standing under it, not for two strangers from across the world who had carried their dreams in worn-out suitcases and quiet prayers. The stage of America's biggest talent show had seen everything: fire, fame, heartbreak, but it had never seen this kind of silence before a storm. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable story, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the kind of dreams that refuse to die no matter how far they have to travel. Marcus Hale sat in the audience that night, his fingers clasped tightly together, as if he were holding on to something invisible. He wasn't famous, not yet, but he knew what it meant to chase a dream that constantly slipped through your fingers. That's why, when the host announced the next act, a Filipino duo singing country music, a quiet ripple of curiosity passed through the room. It wasn't mockery, not exactly, but it wasn't belief either. People shifted in their seats, unsure of what was coming. Backstage, Gabriel Cruz and Nathan Reyes stood side by side, their breaths uneven but their resolve unshaken. They had come from a small town in the Philippines where electricity flickered more often than it stayed on, where music wasn't a career, it was an escape. They grew up singing to old, crackling recordings of American country songs, songs about heartbreak, home, and hope. They didn't fully understand the language at first, but they understood the feeling. And somehow, that was enough. Their journey to the United States wasn't a straight line. It was a maze of sacrifices. Gabriel had worked construction jobs for years, sending every spare dollar home, while Nathan sang at local markets just to afford meals. They auditioned countless times in their home country, always being told the same thing, that their style didn't fit, that country music wasn't theirs to claim. But the more doors that closed, the louder their hearts seemed to sing. When they finally scraped together enough money to travel to America, it felt less like a triumph and more like a desperate gamble. They slept in cramped apartments, sometimes sharing a single mattress, sometimes taking turns staying awake because the cold was too much to bear. But through it all, they held on to one thing, the belief that music didn't belong to a place, it belonged to people. Now, standing on that stage, under the weight of 1,000 expectations, their reality felt fragile. The judges sat before them, their expressions unreadable. Among them was a man known for his brutal honesty, a man whose reaction could make or break dreams in seconds. His eyes rested on the duo with a mixture of curiosity and doubt. The music began softly, almost like a whisper. For a split second, the audience leaned back, preparing themselves for something awkward, something they might politely clap for before moving on. But then Gabriel's voice rose, rich and steady, carrying a depth that seemed too heavy for one person alone. Nathan followed, his tone weaving perfectly into the melody, creating something that felt both foreign and familiar at the same time. It wasn't just a performance, it was a confession. Every note carried the weight of sleepless nights, missed meals, and silent prayers. Every lyric felt lived in, as though they had borrowed pain from 1,000 different lives and stitched it into their song. The auditorium, once restless, began to still. Marcus felt it first. A tightening in his chest, a strange warmth behind his eyes. He wasn't alone. One by one, people stopped shifting in their seats. Phones lowered. Conversations died. What remained was something rare, a room full of strangers feeling the same thing at the same time. The song built slowly, like a storm gathering strength. When they reached the chorus, something broke open. It wasn't loud or flashy, it was raw. The kind of raw that doesn't ask for attention but demands it anyway. Their voices cracked in places, not from weakness but from truth. And in that imperfection, they became unforgettable. The camera cut to the judges. One leaned forward, another blinked rapidly, as if trying to process what they were hearing. But it was the expression of the most critical judge that seemed to hold the entire room captive. His posture, once relaxed, had shifted. His eyes narrowed slightly, not in judgment, but in focus. He wasn't looking for flaws anymore, he was searching for something deeper. Backstage, a production assistant whispered, "This is different." It wasn't said loudly, but it didn't need to be. Everyone could feel it. As the final note lingered in the air, something remarkable happened. Silence. Not the awkward kind that follows a failed performance, but a heavy, almost sacred silence. It lasted longer than anyone expected, stretching into a moment that felt eternal. Then, like a wave crashing against the shore, the audience erupted. Applause thundered through the auditorium, rising to a standing ovation that seemed to shake the very walls. People weren't just clapping, they were celebrating something they hadn't known they needed. Some wiped away tears, others simply stood frozen, overwhelmed by the experience. Gabriel and Nathan stood there, stunned. For a brief moment, they looked like two boys again, uncertain, hopeful, and completely unprepared for what was happening. They glanced at each other, their eyes reflecting the same disbelief. The judges began to speak, but it was the final reaction that everyone waited for. The man known for his sharp critiques leaned forward, his expression softer than anyone had ever seen it. He didn't rush his words. He let the moment breathe. And then, something shifted. His usual composure cracked, not dramatically, but enough for everyone to notice. He nodded slowly, as if acknowledging something undeniable. It wasn't just approval, it was respect. The kind that couldn't be faked or forced. In that moment, everything Gabriel and Nathan had endured felt worth it. Every rejection, every sleepless night, every doubt, they all led here. But their journey wasn't over. In fact, this was only the beginning. After the show, their stories spread like wildfire. People connected with them not just because of their talent, but because of their authenticity. They weren't trying to fit into a mold, they were reshaping it. They proved that music didn't have borders, that emotion didn't need translation, and that sometimes, the most unexpected voices carry the strongest truths. Marcus left the auditorium that night with a renewed sense of purpose. Watching them had reminded him why he started chasing his own dreams in the first place. It wasn't about perfection, it was about persistence. And somewhere, in a small town thousands of miles away, a young child watched their performance on a flickering screen and felt something ignite inside them. A belief that maybe, just maybe, their voice mattered too. If this story is touching your heart so far, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because stories like this remind us why we believe in dreams in the first place. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Fame came with its own set of challenges. Critics questioned their authenticity, others tried to box them into categories that didn't fit. But Gabriel and Nathan didn't let it define them. They stayed rooted in what brought them there, their love for music and their unbreakable bond. They performed on bigger stages, in front of larger crowds, but they never forgot the feeling of that first moment under the spotlight. It became their anchor, their reminder that they didn't need to prove anything to anyone except themselves. And that judge, the one whose reaction said it all, continued to support them in subtle but meaningful ways. Not with empty praise, but with opportunities. The kind that truly mattered. Years later, their story would be told again and again, not as a tale of overnight success, but as a testament to resilience. They didn't just win over an audience, they changed the way people saw music, culture, and possibility. Before we reach the end, I want to ask you something special. Drop a comment below saying dreams have no borders if you believe that talent and passion can come from anywhere in the world. Because at its core, this isn't just a story about two singers. It's a story about courage. About stepping into a space where you don't quite belong and claiming it anyway. It's about the quiet strength it takes to keep going when the world tells you to stop. As the lights dimmed on that unforgettable night, one thing became clear. The performance wasn't just about music, it was about connection. A reminder that no matter where we come from, we all understand the same language when it comes to hope, pain, and dreams. And if this story moved you, if it made you feel something real, take a moment to like, share, and engage with this video. Because every interaction helps stories like this reach someone who might need it the most. Sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one song, one chance, to change everything.